Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Lawrence Boyce. I am the chairman of the board of the Short Film Conference, and it is a great pleasure to welcome you to the Short Film Conference event at Clermont-Ferrand 2020. For those of you who don't know about us, the Short Film Conference is a network of organisations working within short film, and our aim and mission is to promote good practice amongst festivals, amongst organisations, and promote the unique quality of short film. And every year we do an event at Clermont and lots of other festivals where we look at topics which we think are of interest to the short film world, and we hope to create debate and have members of the Short Film Conference and filmmakers and those in the industry talking, sharing ideas, and putting some interesting ideas for the future. Today's event has some really interesting talks. Again, a really great place to share ideas, to think of new things, and just to enjoy ourselves. So thank you very much for coming. I'm going to talk to you a little bit later about some of the admin of the Short Film Conference. I hope we have some long-time members. We also have new members and prospective members. Those prospective members may want to come and talk to Niels, who's over there taking photos at some point during the event, to talk more about the Short Film Conference, or you can come and talk to me. I can tell you more about the Short Film Conference and what we do. I'd also ask those who are registered and not yet signed up before, at some point during today, just to sign your name on the list, just so we know that all the lovely people who have been here. Like I say, I'm going to talk to you a little bit more throughout the day, but I'm going to throw this over to my colleague Gina, who's going to take our first panel discussion.
Kia ora tato. Hello everyone, welcome. We've got a great panel for you today. Just introduce myself, I'm the vice chair of the Short Film Conference, and I also run a short film festival in New Zealand called Show Me Shorts. Really happy to be with you. Do you guys want to come and take some seats, and I will introduce all of you. So, firstly, this panel is presented in collaboration with Be Short Now. So you see Enrico down here filming. This panel presentation will go online so that more people can see it more widely, which is fantastic. And we're going to do a follow-up after this panel at Go Short in the Netherlands so that we can kind of continue this discussion since it's such an important topic. And we're also going to be doing some research with the people who are members of the Short Film Conference so that we can find out within our membership what the kind of gender balance of filmmakers who are making films for the short film festivals who are registered, and also a bit about the organisers of the festivals and how the gender balance is, because information is power. So we're very lucky to have with us today Agnė Adomėnė. She's a creative producer who focuses on developing and producing artistic animated films. In 2012, she founded production company Art Shot. Her first completed film, Ragnarok, was awarded by the Lithuanian Film Academy and selected for many international festivals. Agnė is also one of the founders and a board member of the Lithuanian Animation Association, a board member of the Independent Producers Association of Lithuania, a member of the European Animation Awards Association, and Women in Film and Television, and the Lithuanian Film Academy. So welcome, Agnė. We also have Ivana Kvesic. She is the director of the youth film festival Schweizer Jugendfilmtage? Jugendfilmtage. Okay, sorry, in Zurich, and works as a programmer for the international competition of Kurzfilmtage Winterthur. She's also a programmer for the open air cinema Film MC of Rote Fabrik in Zurich. She is executive board member of SWAN, the Swiss Women's Audiovisual Network. She has a master's degree in economics from the University of Zurich, a CAS in culture management, and is currently studying at Hyperwork. In the past, Ivana has organised numerous exhibitions, performances, and special film events. For 7 years, she was president of the cinema collective Kino Nietzsche. Welcome. And we have Julie Billy, who joined Haute Écoute in 2010, supervising international co-productions such as The Lobster and The Kindergarten Teacher. She also line produced the film Journey Through China and jointly produced the documentary Latifa, A Fighting Heart, which screened at Rotterdam in 2018. Also, The Night Eats the World, which screened at Tribeca in 2018. She co-produced A Chiambra, the Italian entry for the Oscars in 2018, and The County, which premiered at TIFF in 2019. She currently has a slate of highly anticipated films in various stages of production, pre- and post-production, as a producer and a co-producer. Importantly, Julie is one of the co-founders and co-president of Collectif 50/50. The Collectif 50/50 currently brings together more than 1,500 key players in the creation and industry of French cinema. Structured as an action tank, the Collectif is committed to a reflection and fight for equality and diversity in the film industry. Welcome. So Agnė, I'm going to ask you to talk a little bit more about your work.
Thank you for a very nice introduction. So basically my main activity is short film production, and I also do a lot of international co-production on short films. My recent minority co-production with Estonia, puppet animation Winter in the Rainforest, is at the moment here in Clermont-Ferrand in international competition. Yes, so all kind of animation, but mostly I'm interested in artistic films, short films with very clear director's vision, statement, and approach on filmmaking. And it happens so that I work a lot with women directors, and yeah.
Hello everyone. So my main job is actually to be director of a Jahr Film Festival of Schweizer Jugendfilmtage. So we are giving youngsters a platform to present their films in a competition, and like this supporting the next generation of filmmakers in Switzerland. The second main job is to be programmer for the international competition at Kurzfilmtage Winterthur, where I'm now in the 3rd or 4th year, I can't remember anymore, where we also, like in a selection committee of 7 to 8 people, we are selecting films, over 4,000 films for the international competition in Switzerland in Winterthur. And next to it, I'm doing programming for the oldest open-air cinema in Switzerland and other little things, and studying at the art school. So I start to do more work in audiovisual segment as an artist.
Hi everyone, thank you for gathering us. I'm happy that we are women, but I wish that we had men also to talk about gender equality. It's important, and I see a lot of men in the room, which I'm really happy, because usually on these conferences there are only women coming, so thank you for being here. I've been a producer for 10 years, and I am still a producer, but we founded the Collectif 50/50 2 years ago after the Weinstein wave, the Weinstein effect, because in France there was not really anyone speaking up, and we felt that there was something to do because we had our Me Too's as well, and what we felt is that we wanted first to tackle this issue with numbers, because we felt that when we change the power and the executive bodies of power, then you create safe space, and you you fight against harassment and all the inequalities. So we first took this issue by numbers, by asking for those numbers and requiring those numbers. That was the first thing, which I think is going to echo with all the slides that you're going to show us, Gina. But first, yeah, the Collectif, we were 40 people. It was Céline Sciamma, Rebecca Zlotowski, a few producers, some sales agents, no festival programmers were there, but very different people from the industry. And now we are 1,500. And I think we fight for a more diverse, not only on the female side, but also a more inclusive universe and industry.
Thank you. So just to bring everyone onto the same page, we have some research which is often quite sobering, which we're just going to show you now, some beautiful graphs. The first one is from the top 5 film festivals in the world, feature film festivals. And as you can see, the representation of female filmmakers is around 25% average over the last 3 years. And the representation of people of colour is also only 35%, so it's not so great. There's also some research here about executives at festivals, and for boards of festivals, it's really low. We're looking at 30% female there, and also programmers isn't so bad though. Programmers, we have about 47%. This research again is just from the top 5 film festivals in the world, so it's probably not representative of where we're at with shorts, but it's interesting to take a look at that. There's some new research that's just come out from StephenFollows.com. This is specifically about short films, and as you can see, we're hovering around between 30 and 35% of producers of short films. This research is specifically about short films that have played at festivals, and for directors and writers, it's been quite similar, hovering between 20 and 25%. It looks like those figures are going up slightly, but there was a dip around 10 years ago, so we're really not seeing a lot of progress there. There has been some research by the Gina Davis Foundation, who look particularly into family films, and they have looked at female leads. They have their motto, if she can see it, she can be it. So they're all about promoting more women on screen. And again, the stats, there's a tiny increase, but it's very flat. This is looking at the top 100 family films and measured over the last kind of 10 years. Salary inequality. So these statistics look at how women are paid compared to men in different jobs within the industry. I'm not sure if you can see the names very well here, but the figures at the top are for script supervisors and people who work in stunts. And those are the only 2 categories where women are paid slightly more than men. For everything else, women are paid between 2 and 42% less than their male colleagues. So this is particularly sobering and disappointing. Unfortunately, the bottom category there is directors, with 42% on average gaps in salary between men and women. So, I mean, maybe you can see why less women are directing films if they're not getting paid as much. And we see an unequal distribution of jobs as well in the screen industry. You can perhaps not read this again quite so well, but the jobs where there are more women are assistant director, production manager, accounting, hair and makeup, costume designing, and script supervising. Everything else, there are more men in all of the other areas. And This graph compares the directors of films between shorts and features. This is the new research that's from Stephen Follows again. As usual, short films is kind of leading the way. We're much more successful in having women behind the camera than in feature films, but it's still pretty disappointing. It's far lower than it should be. And these graphs compare shorts and features for writers, directors, and producers. You can see it looks like there's some uptick, but they're still much lower than they should be. Interestingly, 50% of graduate students from film schools are women, so something's happening there. There's some problems in our screen industry that we've got all of these promising women that aren't making films. And you can see here that in terms of box office success, it used to be the case that if you had women in your lead role, your chances of making money at the box office were much lower, but that's no longer the case. The audiences have caught up and they are watching men and women on screen equally at the moment, and those films are equally profitable. And one promising slide at the end here is the increase in female leads. So this research is showing a definite increase in the number of films being made with women in lead roles. So we're looking at about 40% at the moment. This research is feature films, I think. So there is an increase, but it's still too small. That's the last one. Okay. So it's kind of sobering. Do you want to start some discussion, Agnė, about these figures and what they point to in our industry?
Yes, as we're talking about figures, I would like to add, we had research lately in Lithuania, female in Lithuania and film business. It was presented last year, the research, and the data they were researching was from 1947 till 2018. And there were two things that I found interesting, like the most interesting things for me in this research. The first one was that it's quite okay in short films. It's almost like there is equality, you know, in short films and also in documentaries. Even in feature documentaries, we have quite a lot women producers and also women directors. But then when you compare feature film, like the numbers drops drastically to 15%. So basically, you know, where there are low budgets and, you know, like low risk productions, we have a lot of women in Lithuania. But then when, you know, you compare with films with higher budgets and, you know, higher risks, there are much less women directors and also producers. And for me, it was very, very, in a way, shocking thing, because I was so sure that we are doing okay, because, you know, there are so many, I know so many women producers, I know so many talented directors, but somehow, you know, all the women, they stay there, you know, in short films and also in documentary and animation maybe. And then again, you know, if you look here, even in Clermont-Ferrand, we have Lithuanian shorts stand for many years, you know, here. And like this year, we have 100% female representation here, and also last year was the same. So, you know, it's all good, you know, when you look into short films. But then when, you know, you go back to feature film, it's not okay. Something is wrong there. And another interesting thing that I found about this research was editing. You know, as a research took really long period, And until the digital era, there was like 3 positions where we had most women, like 80% of women in the film. It was costume design, it was makeup, and editing. And then after we entered into digital era, the number of women editors dropped really drastically to 20%. And that explains a lot, because as long as editing was like this handcraft thing, when while you were working with analog, film, there were mostly women. Yeah. And then once digital started, men suddenly became so interested in editing. So yeah, so I think that explains a bit.
Tell us a little bit about how it is in Switzerland, Ivana.
So SWAN was actually founded after a research. I mean, there was a research from the government of 2012 till 2014 comparing the numbers, and there it was like significantly different. Like women, like the government invested around 14 million on women film and 40 million Swiss francs on man film. So this number made like some women from the industry to say, okay, we are now founding a task force to dig a bit deeper. What does that mean? Why is there such a huge difference between the funding of films from men and from women? And it's a bit the same with the short and the feature films. So as well, in school they're like 50-50 parity. Short film more or less 50-50 depending which field. Feature film, it's around fiction, for example, around 26-29% women, the rest is men. And so SWAN is starting to collect more and more data to make more transparency. What we realized is that we have some numbers, but they are not really transparent. So with trying to do pledges with a lot of festivals is also the goal to gathering more and more data to really see over the years if there's a change coming, if the work which women are doing to support, empower women and to talk to institutions, to talk to programmers, to talk to directors, if this helps to support and to push actually empower the women. So how you said at the beginning, it's important to have the data and the facts, because in many institutions only this helps to prove that there is an inequality. Without having data, you can't prove. You can say, yeah, there's an inequality, but nobody actually believes, because they say, well, there's like this famous female producer, she gets a lot of money, but after her there are like 10 or 12 men coming before another woman is stepping in. So these are the numbers which need to be challenged, and the transparency needs to be rising.
I think we are on kind of the same levels in France, even though we have a higher level of women directors in first feature films. But it was interesting to see that we were at 50-50 in schools in France for like 10 years. We are around between 32 and 36% of female short filmmakers. Then we go down to 23% for the first feature film. And then we go down to 6% when we talk about budget higher than 6 million euros. So this whole level of numbers was very striking. But I think that even though we also implemented this pledge that we signed with Cannes Film Festival for the first time 2 years ago, and now like 123 festivals all over the world signed it to collect this number, we still have a big step to do, because if we go to that rhythm, like 10 years ago, we were 3 points less. We were 28% short film female filmmaker. Today we're 32%. So it means that in 66 years, we might arise to 50%, meaning I will be 101 years old, and I wish that I can see 50-50 before I'm 101 years old. And for that, we need to implement change that are incentive, that are really proactive, and we need to take the change, not only looking at the numbers, but also, and not only analyzing it, but putting like measures and politic measures and systematizing those politic measures so that we arrive at this change. The Collectif 50/50 was first called Collectif 50/50 by 2020. We had this goal of being like auto-destructible in 2020, and we should not be here today because we should have raised those 50/50, and it's definitely not the case.
So my next question is a comment and a question. Short films lead the way for innovation within the screen industry. I think this is a known thing in terms of technology, filming techniques, story styles and structure. Do you believe we in the short film sector can play a leading role in demonstrating to the wider screen industry how to achieve equitable gender representation? Do you want to start?
Yes, I believe so, because short films can be more innovative. They can try out. They can be courageous. They can find new ways of telling stories, so they can lead. And usually, like often, short films can be also from the cast, from the crew, director, producer, more diverse in a quicker way actually than maybe feature films. So yes, they are leading by having the presence on festivals, that people are coming to see, that people are seeing stories on the screens which are more diverse than they usually see. So it has an impact on the audience, it has an impact on the industry and everything. The problem is maybe with the short, the visibility. So usually they are seen on festivals, but not often in cinemas, like as a regular program or on TV. So there is an audience which is already interested to see it, but how can we push it further? So there's maybe this imbalance which can get, but yes, I think it can be it can have a huge impact, but it also needs to come from the other side, that the directors or the programmers are more sensitive to this topic, that me as a programmer and that my director, artistic director is saying, hey, we want to pay attention on this topic. We want to have diverse films, we want to have a diversity which we want to show to the audience, and this is also important from this side. And also important from the funding institution, that they are saying, okay, we have now a script of a woman and a man, and they are equal. Usually the possibility that the man is getting the money is sometimes higher, as we see as the numbers, that the funding institution is saying, no, we want to support women, we want to empower women, we want to give them the money, that they can make films, that they can have the visibility. So it's not only about filmmakers doing their job, it's all around, which also needs to do the jobs, that it can be raised.
You want to say something on this as well? Yes, go.
Me personally, I see a lot of value in discussion like that, not only because of institutions and numbers and researchers, which is very important, but it's also very important rising this awareness and rising awareness among women that short films, it's not the only platform for women to be active, that you can go further, and there are like feature films and just how to say, to empower women to go to want more maybe.
Yeah, I think as the numbers show, there's some problems getting from shorts to features as well as from film school to shorts. So there's something happening in there. There are some barriers happening there. Do you want to talk a little bit about what those barriers might be for female directors and filmmakers who are trying to get their things made?
I think that one of the first barriers is the financial one. Like if you, but the first barrier is it's unconscious bias. I mean, we all have our unconscious bias that kind of stop us, and I think that teaching women to be legitimate and to feel legitimate is one first thing, and being confident. And this goes through mentorship programs. This goes through role models, so basically showing young girls and young male, female into state of power, female directors. That helps also to imagine herself into a position where we can go, because then if you have a role model, you can achieve it. So I think it's first a question of feeling confident enough, and a lot of women still are still in this process of discovering this with a way slower approach than men. But I also wanted to go back on how the short filmmakers and how the short film industry can help this. I think that when you're a male director, when you're a male festival programmer, you also have to take action, and you also have to say, okay, I'm gonna recruit, and I'm gonna ask my producer and urge my producer to have a parity crew. I'm gonna urge my programmers. I'm gonna have a parity committee programmers, but I'm gonna urge them to have a special eye also on the films that are made by women. And by this, then you can reach, like, being proactive is very important.
I just want to show of hands of the film programmers and festival directors in the audience of whose festival is around 50-50 of short films that are female, male driven or close to. That's pretty impressive. It's a good start. So it's great that there are so many that are really close to that already, or already at that place. But so back to some of the barriers towards getting to that place. I know as a programmer that you don't get as many entries from female filmmakers as from males. How would you approach that as a programmer when you're trying to redress the balance?
So in our team of Winterthur, I think we are quite aware of this topic. So we want to have a diversity of the countries. So some countries, of course, have maybe more men who are studying film, like in some African countries or in Arabic countries. So there's also sometimes a difficulty to get more women in it, but there are women, so we want to support them. And of course, when I'm watching films, I'm always like checking what is the story, how is the film made, how innovative is it, but also like I'm checking as well from which country, if it's a woman or not. And when we do the selection process, we have been last year 8 film programmers and 5 women, 5 female programmers and 3 men. So we are really trying to find the women which we want to represent.
Great. And one of the other things that the research mentioned was about the disparity in the number of executives at film festival boards or other kind of film institutions. Like, how do we go about kind of changing that? It needs to come kind of top down, this change?
We implemented one thing with the CNC, so our national authority in France, which is a bonus of 15% for film production that hires key crew members that are female. So when you have a majority of really key crew members that are female, then you get this 15% bonus. And regarding the executive bodies, I think that a lot of men felt like, ooh, we are here for the job, but there are jobs for everyone, and we are not, like, the idea is to share this power and to make it, to bring the invisible more visible and to share it. And share it doesn't mean having less power, it's actually being more collective. And this, it has to go through very proactive, again, I don't want to repeat myself, but proactive actions. And for instance, when the Oscars a few years ago saw that there were no diversity and there were only filmmakers, male filmmakers who were nominated, they looked at the people who were voting, and they decided to open this up, to open this to youth, more diverse and more female filmmaker and other people from the industry, to have them join the academy, to have them join the boards of power. And this is something that all the people who have power have to think of and have to open up.
Yeah, so it's about sharing that power. So I want to mention now, Elena, a post-Me Too world about creating safe spaces. And I think this is important for women on set as well as attending film festivals. And so can you comment on like practical ways that you think are useful to create a kind of safe working environment where people feel like there is no chance of them being harassed?
Last year I was leading a workshop at the Industry Lab of Winterthur about how to achieve gender equality in filmmaking with the mindset of going from short to feature film. And we were like, there were like 15 participants. We did like in 2 hours really hardcore intensive workshop of discussing through different kind helping of models. And at the end we were coming to call for actions. What we could do immediately to achieve something. It wasn't about the workshop of how we can change the whole system. It was more about what could be the next steps which are reachable. And what was really, really interesting was that the women were like, well, if we would have more women on set, if the set, like the whole structure would be more diverse, there would be less sexual harassment, there would be less fear of being under pressure and everything. And this was like for me a key element to that women are starting to understand, hey, if I'm working in a more diverse space, I'm having more safe space. And this should be a more empowering and also encouraging way. The other thing which was also very interesting was I want to have role models. I want to have women as role models. I want to see, how you said before, I want to see what I can achieve and how I can achieve. And those are like the two main points which I think everybody can immediately start to do it. I mean, if I'm a director of the Youth Film Festival, we are working with young people between 10 years old. They start to do films with 9-ish, 10-ish, till 30 years old. And we have in a jury like 5 jury members, all industry people. We have 4 women in it and 1 man. If we do workshops for the youngsters, we are checking that we have women as workshop leaders and not men. And we are really doing a lot of research to find those women. And all those things, also the directors are women, the team is women. So it's up to us that we are starting to change and to give these role models. And I'm not sure, I mean, in the German language is also like, the German language is like more male inclusive. So, for example, the director is called Regisseur, and then they say, oh, the Regisseuren kommen, and not female director is Regisseurin. They are missing. I mean, everybody understands that they are in it, but you don't hear it. So as a kid or as a young woman or as a woman, you never hear female director or doctor, female doctor, and all those things. So we start, and I'm doing it even in my private life. I'm always addressing men and women. And these are like, and language also has a lot of power, and usually people forget about it. So it's important to use also the proper language to empower also people.
Yeah, so there's lots of work to be done in this space by all of us, really. We were talking a little bit before the panel started about what it's like to be a female on any panel. I was speaking specifically about being the only female on a jury panel and how it can be kind of intimidating, or you feel like you're talked over. I had an experience at one festival where the other panelists expected me to be the note taker and secretary of the group very recently, and so I wondered if you have some comments about kind of this like tokenism of being the only female in any group, really.
Well, there was this weird case in Lithuania. I wasn't even invited, but not that me personally wasn't invited. There was a conference in the parliament about film industry, and like the idea was to implement a tax incentive in Lithuania for film industry, and no woman was invited to this conference, and it was in the parliament, like 5 or 6 men were talking. Like women were invited to listen, but not to talk, not to say anything, and actually that was the breaking point when we decided to establish this Women in Film and Television chapter in Lithuania. That was the moment that we said, okay, so we should maybe to do something about it, and next time we at least suggest that someone could go, and that's one of our goals, that our network, Women in Film and Television in Lithuania, that we, every time there is some issue with the film industry in Lithuania, we at least suggest person from our network to go there to speak, to be there, to be present, that we also are active members of the industry, not only listening, but we can sometimes to talk also.
Yeah, that's a really nice practical way of helping to improve things and providing, like, look, we have these great candidates that you maybe hadn't thought of. Julie, you were talking about having minors attending film festivals and having chaperones. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, we had there was our Me Too moment a few months ago when Adomėnė spoke about what she lived 15 years ago with a director. She was at that time a minor, and she was going to festivals actually with this director. And now Unifrance was our collective of sales agent and festival in France decided to not permit any minor who has a leading role in a film to go alone with crew members in a festival. He has to be accompanied with his legal tutor. And they also put in place a hotline, not for minor but for everyone, for harassment. So they are taking, right now, Unifrance is taking in charge also the reflection and the awareness on festivals and how to handle those problematics of harassment in festivals. So this hotline, I think, already exists in Berlinale last year, but will be systematized. And so there are a few things like this that they are thinking of right now to actually make the sales agent industry and the festivals industry more safe.
Yeah, I think that's probably something that's important for all of us. There have been some cases recently where there's been some harassment that's taken place during a festival, and the festival has to decide how they will handle that. And so we all kind of need to have some process in place for what we do in that and how we keep all of our guests and our audience members safe during a festival. But also it shouldn't just be responsive, it should be proactive. We should be planning in advance to hopefully make sure there are no incidents like that happen. Do you have some advice for the festival organisers here?
I think that also letting know the people who are coming to the festival that you're not a place where these things can happen. You're not a place that allow those things to happen. It's already a first barrier, I would say. It's like I'm not a festival programmer, but I'm a producer, and on the sets now, like the little things that I implement are very simple. It's in every contract. I stipulated that harassment is punished by law, and I put the text of the law. So every crew member, every comedian, every director who signed a contract with me know that this is not allowed, and is reminding of the law. There is also like a meeting that we do at first on every set, on the first day of the set. It's like a 15 minutes meeting saying, this is harassment, this is not harassment, you're not allowed to do this and this and this. If there is a problem, here is a referent on set, who is someone from the crew who would designate herself or himself. And this referent is someone who's the ear of, if anything happens, this referent goes to the producer or the line producer to say, okay, I was the testimony, I heard something that seems not right, what can I do, etc. So the fact that you say at the beginning of a shoot, this is not allowed on my set, I can say that it has positive effect, because everyone is like, okay, you know, because when you say, oh, but that was just a joke, okay, you know, I punch her on the eyes, but that was just a joke. Yeah, well, this is not allowed on my set. I'm sorry, you can go. You know, and we're working on several to implement several things like this, just like with the insurer, because when someone who has a key role in the film, being the director or the actor, and being the harasser, being the man who violent, it's very hard to ask him to take the door, you know, because he's part of the main person on your set. So for a producer, it's very hard to stop the shoot at this moment. But if the insurer is on your side, and that you have put all those barriers at the beginning, and that you have to stop the set, and you have an insurer on your side, being like stipulating that you can stop the set for a few days and you can pay for it, then it's different, and you can actually stop the set, and you can actually take action.
Yeah, it's also like maybe sometimes if you do, like, for example, if you lead a workshop, set up the safe zone, set up what are the rules within the workshop, what do you expect, how to behave with each other, how to treat respectful of each other. Also, it could be possible solution, for example, for a festival, to produce stickers where it's like no phone, like I don't want to be photographed, or to put rules on a wall, like what does mean to have a safe zone. So no sexual harassment, no discrimination, racism, whatever. It can be, I think, that the younger generation is sometimes more aware of it, especially in the art field. So a lot of is going on about gender. What does gender mean? How do I address, how do I talk to somebody? And like this gender neutral language, which is very important in the German language, how to use that. So yeah, I mean, everybody can take yourself at the nose, we would say in German, and to raise awareness and to tell somebody, hey, this was not okay what you did now.
Sure, and I think there are also some nice warm ways that you can kind of set this environment to, like bringing your team together and talking about how it's our collective responsibility to keep each other and our guests safe, and I guess identifying to festival guests and audience members who your staff are, so they know those are the safe people that they can raise any issues with, and that they'll be kind of warmly received. So it's kind of not always kind of punitive rules, but maybe a combination of that warmth of, hey, we're all here together looking out for each other and creating this kind of inclusive community.
Just a small comment. Since a few years back, there was a Me Too case in Lithuania as well, with well-known Lithuanian director. And afterwards, we had a lot of discussions and a lot of meetings with the Lithuanian Film Center. And what they did in the end, they put this chapter in the contract, in the funding contract. Once you get public funding from the Lithuanian Film Center, in the contract, you, as a producer, you accept responsibility to provide safe environment, you know, on your set, on your filming, and etc. And I think maybe it's a small step, the first step, but it is important because again, it's you know, where's the awareness that some things no longer are tolerated, and I think it's very important. Just, it's again important that you just as a woman, you can do something if you don't feel comfortable. You have support. Yes, you're not left alone.
I'm gonna see if we have any questions from the audience. We have a couple of minutes. If anyone has anything they want to ask while we're here of the panelists. Yes. She's asking if there's an existing document that kind of regulates. Internationally, or whether festivals prefer their own strategy for managing gender equality at festivals. I don't think there is.
When we created this pledge that Cannes Film Festival signed first, and that is now the pledge that Clermont-Ferrand signed last year, we got comments from festival programmers who were like, what, you're going to impose some quotas on our selection, but this is not the idea, and I don't think the idea is to have like a guidelines of things you have to do in your festivals. I mean, every festival is very different. You have your own way of programming. You have a creative space to of course keep and sustain. The idea of the pledge that Clermont signed and many festivals sign, it's really to collect the numbers, and there is one thing that says that you urge yourself to transform the executive body of your festival if it hasn't achieved parity in like a few years or a few months, depending on the festivals. Some of the festivals, I won't mention them, though I should, but some of the festivals felt our pledge was very easy and that they would always meet with, that they already met the requirements. So they were like, we want to go further. So they took this pledge and they implemented it with other stuff in it, like more diversity, more inclusion. For us, for instance, in France, ethnical statistics are not allowed, so we are not allowed to compile those statistics about race and about ethnicity. So basically, those festivals, and I would say in America especially, who were way more advanced on this question, decided to add this in the pledge. If you guys want to sign the 50-50 pledge, it's an honor for us to, of course, have you. This is very easy. You can just come to me at the end, and I'll put you in touch with our coordinator, and you'll receive just like a very simple thing of questions with like a study and specific numbers that we collect, and at the end, you're part of the study we'll make with all those numbers that we've been collecting. But I don't think that there is a guideline that should apply to festival. I think just that the programmers and the directors of festival and the people who have the power in festival must be aware of those questions and give this awareness to others and make your audience aware of that as well. And make your audience aware that you're aware is already something very good.
So tell us the address, the website address where people can go to find out more about joining the pledge for 50-50.
It's collectif5050.com, and there is an English, it's in French, but there is an English tab, so you have everything.
I'm already signing, so...
Yeah, so you know.
I have some people in the audience signed the pledge already. Can I see? Just a few. Okay, well, hopefully some more after this. That's kind of all we have time for, I think. So I just want to thank you all so much for your time, and we really appreciate all of your comments. And I also want to invite all of you in the audience to kind of join us as we do this important work over the coming few years towards achieving gender equity in the short film industry. And I think together we have a lot of momentum and that we can make great strides together. So thanks very much, and thank you to our panelists.